Hi guys, it is me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to this race reaction for the 2018 Hungarian Grand Prix. How are you all doing after that race? It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't too boring, so definitely a lot to talk about. And if you did not catch the race, then here are the results of that Hungarian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton wins, Sebastian Vettel is P2, Kimi Raikkonen is P3, Daniel Ricciardo doing well to get to 4th, and then 5th is Bottas, 6th is Gasly, 7th is Kevin Magnussen, 8th is Alonso, Sainz is P9, Grosjean P10, that is the point scorers. Then you have Hartley P11, then Hulkenberg, Ocon, Perez, Ericsson, Sorokin and Stroll. The cars that finished but sadly just didn't score any points with Van Dorn, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, your retirees. Now, before we get properly into this race reaction, just need to say a few things. Is one, if you want to join the ChazzaHD F1 Discord server, link to that is down in the description to join. If the link doesn't work, by the way, comment below saying it doesn't work, and then I will post you a new one in case that one doesn't work. Follow me on Twitter. A link to that is in the description as well if you want to keep up to date as to when I'm uploading. Don't forget to subscribe either on the bottom right of the screen, click on my channel name, or click in the description on my channel page to subscribe. Like this video, comment down below, and also, in case you're new, there will be no Q&A at the end, and please stick around at the end because I will be letting you guys know what my summer break schedule is. And there are some things that you guys need to know, you know, for the summer break, so you're not unsure of what is coming around. But we'll get straight into it, shall we? First, let's go into Mercedes, who, with Lewis Hamilton, there was no real stopping him. He had the pace, even though Sebastian Vettel did struggle at times with traffic. Lewis Hamilton had enough pace to win the race and fully deserves to win the Grand Prix after his brilliant pole lap yesterday. Just no one could stop him. He was absolutely fantastic, so congratulations to him. But for Valtteri Bottas, he tried his best to hold back Vettel and help Lewis's championship bid, but eventually I think Bottas's tyres just went off the cliff. He couldn't do anything about it, and when he tried to fight back against Vettel at turn 2, hit the back of his car, broke his front wing, and then when Ricciardo tried to get past, crashed into him, which I'd have to say was a kind of a stupid accident because I don't think Valtteri should have really fought it, because he was going to get past. He was so slow, he should have just let it happen. There was nothing Valtteri was going to do to stop Ricciardo passing him, so I think that was a stupid accident that was caused by Valtteri, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a penalty or a reprimand of some sort. But yeah, a great weekend for Mercedes. They won at a track where they weren't going to do well, it looked like, from Friday, but they won the race, and that is all that matters, as Lewis Hamilton now has a 24-point gap in the World Championship to Sebastian Vettel. That is almost a race wins gap, and that could be vital at the end of this season. This could be the weekend where Lewis won the title, so we'll see once we come back from the summer break. In terms of what effect this has, and I think it's had quite a big one. Let's see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. He should get a reprimand. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, he wasn't going to lose. Even if he gets a penalty, he's not going to lose position anyway. So give him a reprimand, and if you're going to be harsh, I don't know, a penalty point on his licence. But I don't think he should get a penalty. Who should? Talking about Valtteri Bottas when he hit Daniel Ricciardo. Bottas was a very good rear gunner for Hamilton by Simon Cragland. For the time he was ahead of Vettel, he was, but I just don't think Valtteri had the tyres left to fight any harder. I just don't think he had the tyres left. That's why Sebastian eventually got past. Hamilton will not win the World Drivers' Championship because he won this race. If you look at the stats, things can change, though. Things can change. I mean, I think this race is going to be important once we get down to the nitty-gritty of the last, 3 or 4 races. Things will change, no doubt. Sebastian, I think, will definitely close the gap, but this race might have been the difference at the end of the season when it comes to if Sebastian closed the gap or not. That's going to change this year. He will change that after 14-year gap. But if Bottas had fresher tyres, he would have held off both Ferraris. Yeah, he would have, but he didn't. And that's just the way it goes, I'm afraid. But Vettel would never have been able to overtake Hamilton today. I don't think he would have, no. Even if he was behind Hamilton by, 9/10 or 1 second, I don't think he would have, because Hamilton had fresher tyres than Valtteri did. So yeah, it would have been hard. The next 3 tracks should suit Ferrari. Yeah, well, it worked towards their favour, but not massively. I think Mercedes will also, I think he'll also, Ferrari will also, what am I trying to say? The Mercedes also, that's it, the Mercedes also will be, right up there. I think Mercedes have an upgrade package that is coming for Spa, and that should make, hopefully from their point of view, some difference on the advantage that Ferrari do have over Mercedes in dry conditions. But we'll move on from Mercedes and go on to Ferrari, who they tried all they could with the strategy they were on to get up to Hamilton, but they never could because they just weren't fast enough today. And I think they got the strategy wrong with Sebastian Vettel. I think he should have started on the Ultrasofts, because I think if he was on fresher soft tyres at the end, he would have had a better chance of getting past Valtteri faster instead of the fresher Ultrasofts, because the Ultrasoft was not working well today. It only worked for about 12 to 15 laps, something like that. So yeah, I think that was a bit of a mistake, but this weekend has been a mistake for Ferrari. It's just one big mistake for them. Qualifying, I don't know what they were really playing at. I mean, I know their car in the wet is not, the best, but they had the best car on Friday, I think, by quite a margin. And I don't understand why in qualifying they just could not hook it up. I don't get it. Maybe it's just Lewis and Valtteri are better in the wet. Who knows? But yeah, I think this race was blown in qualifying. If they had Vettel, say, P2 and Vettel got away and started on softs and maintained P2, I think Sebastian could have at least put Hamilton under pressure. But because he qualified P4, his chances of winning were very slim. Very, very slim. So nothing really he could have done today. Again, qualifying has really cost him. The pit stops were bleep. Yep, they were, but I don't think they would have made a massive difference in terms of getting up to Hamilton, because, he got past Bottas eventually, but there was such a gap to Lewis. I don't see how it would have made really a difference today. Mercedes won't do well in Singapore. They won't, but look at last year. Ferrari were much better, but then bottled it a few metres off the start line. So it doesn't matter if you're better at a certain track. You have to, when you get to a track when it's, a track that suits you a lot more than your rival, you have to get the result. You cannot be good in qualifying and practice, or just practice and then blow it once you get to the important bit, because that's what Ferrari have done this weekend. They were great in practice at a track which suits them, and then when they got to qualifying, they blew it. So again, it doesn't matter if you're much faster. You have to produce when it's required, and Ferrari just didn't. So yeah, Toto calling Bottas a wingman, so he's a number 2. It's not a surprise. He's too far back in the championship. He has to play a number 2 role now, and Kimi's playing that for Sebastian, and that's the way it's going to go. Valtteri and Kimi will just support those two up until Abu Dhabi. I do not see that changing. Bottas is more or less Lewis's wingman, and still Mercedes say Lewis is not number 1. He is. They're lying. why wouldn't you say he's number one? I mean, it's clear. He's so far ahead of Valtteri. There's no real point lying. But yeah. Sainz ignored blue flags 9 times. He should have gotten a penalty. I don't know about that, but didn't come up on the TV screen in terms of an investigation, so I'm going to assume that that is not the case. Bottas is not too bad, but I will like to have Perez there, not because I'm Latin, is because he's also a team player but more skilled. Perez is definitely on Bottas's level, and I think they're both very close in terms of drivers, but I think Bottas just edges it. I think Perez is a better race driver, but Bottas is the better qualifier. But even in the racing, it is still close between the two. So yeah, we'll move on. Bottas is better. Yeah, I'd say just about. We'll move on from Ferrari. Again, just blew it this weekend. And go on to Red Bull, who I think is another team that kind of blew it this weekend. In practice, 1 and 2. They looked competitive enough for a podium, but then practice 3 and qualifying completely cost them what was, at the end of the day, a bad weekend. You know, Daniel Ricciardo took a penalty to be fast here, and they were not fast here at all. They did not have the pace to win this race, and they really should have, because that car, aerodynamically, should be quite a bit clear of Mercedes and Ferrari, so I don't get why they just did not have the pace this weekend. I don't get it. But Max Verstappen retiring after 6 laps with an MG UK problem. Very sad for him. I think he would have been in there maybe at the end with Vettel, Kimi and Bottas, so that is sad for him. And yeah, it's with Verstappen, it's sad. It's very, very sad in my opinion, because I think he had the pace to get up there with Vettel and Kimi. So yeah, that's just sad for him. And Daniel Ricciardo finishing in P4, got his way through the field, I think, quite well. I think a couple of cars he kind of struggled to get past, such as Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, and I think Fernando Alonso in the McLaren, who defended very well from him, but eventually got past those cars. And he had good race pace, but just not good enough, I think, and not good enough for a long enough time. It was kind of like Spain, where at times they had good race pace, but at other times they just didn't have any pace. So yeah, I think Red Bull will come away from this race very disappointed. They should have been at the very, very least on the podium, and they weren't really at the end of the day close to that. So disappointing for Red Bull. And going into the rest of the season, I don't see how Red Bull... I don't see them winning a race, I'm afraid, unless something crazy happens with crashes from Ferrari and Mercedes, because I think the reason they were not really that quick this weekend was because the Ferrari and Mercedes power unit is so much more powerful right now than the Renault, that Red Bull are suffering a lot more than they would have, say, a few races ago. So I think that is really damaging them, and I don't think that'll help them to win a race. I just don't see that happening. So that is the way it looks like it's going to go for Red Bull. And I think, you know what, with what's coming up next year of Honda, I would kind of give up on 2018, because yeah, you can get a couple more race wins, but you know, they want to win the championship. They don't want to just win a race. So I think they should probably start to focus now on 2019. But yeah, not good race there from Red Bull. Let's see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. In my opinion, Renault engine is the least reliable this year. Right now, I'd have to say that is true. I think a few races ago, I think the Honda was less reliable, but the Renault's just getting worse in terms of reliability. What do you think about Force India going into administration? Very worrying. I'm very worried for Force India. I am. I think like they do have potential buyers that are possibly going to buy the team, but I'm not very confident in their future. I'm not. And I think soon there is a possibility that they could be going out of F1. As sad as that is to say, it is at least a possibility. I think Ricciardo was saving his engine or something after he overtook Magnussen. He's got a new, well, mostly a new power unit though, so I don't think he really has a reason to do that. It's going to be interesting to see whether they can improve like they always do in the second part of the season. If they continue developing full course for the rest of 2018, then yeah, I think they will improve aerodynamically. In terms of the power unit, I don't think they will, because I don't think Renault have really got a power unit powerful enough to race Ferrari and Mercedes. I don't think they have that right now. The Honda engine is better than the Renault, slightly slower but more reliable. If that's what you count as better, then you know that's your opinion. But I think having a better engine in terms of speed and it being less reliable is better, because at least if you have a better engine, you know that all you have to sort out is the reliability. I think finding power is a lot harder than the reliability side. I hate how McLaren are bad, but Alonso, I don't know what you're trying to say there. Alonso got some, but Alonso got some points. Yeah, McLaren were good today in terms of pace. I'd say this is one of their best races of the season in terms of race pace. Actually, I think they are both just as good. Okay, we'll move on from Red Bull. Again, disappointing. I was expecting a lot more this weekend. As you could tell from the preview, the title of my Hungarian Grand Prix preview, where I put Red Bull set to dominate ? I honestly thought Red Bull would be right up there for the race win, but they're not, and that is not good enough. Let's go on now to the midfield teams. First off, McLaren, and I have to say, this was one of their best races of the season. I mean, their pace in the overcut with Fernando Alonso and Stoffel Vandoorne, who we'll get onto in a minute, was brilliant. It was absolutely exactly what they needed to get points, and they needed those points to try and catch up a bit to Force India, who are in P6 now in the Constructors' Championship. But yeah, a good day for McLaren. A really good day for McLaren. But I feel so sorry for Stoffel Vandoorne. You know, running in P9, doing so well. I think he was catching his teammate Fernando Alonso as well. Again, running so well, and then that happens. I do feel sorry for him. I really do feel sorry for him, because he deserved a points finish today. And if he'd finished in the points, I would have given him the driver of the day. He was that good. So yeah, sad there, but at least for McLaren, points were scored and they've gained on at least one of the teams ahead of them. So good there for McLaren. What do you guys think about McLaren? A good strategy, but they were lucky with Ocon, who held up Grosjean and Sainz. Yeah, but you know, I think that strategy was to capitalise on something like that happening. So, you know, they capitalised and were there to pick up from where Sainz and Grosjean couldn't get it done. So, good strategy nonetheless, I'd say. And yeah, good race for Vandoorne. Vandoorne was very good today, just unlucky. Again, yep. I honestly worry for Vandoorne, because I think a drive like that today, if he'd finished, would have kind of saved his career at McLaren. I'm not sure it will, though. Going forward, hopefully he doesn't lose hope and he actually continues like this for the rest of the season, so he can save his drive. I don't think anyone will be able to pass Ferrari or Mercedes. No. Who will drive for McLaren next year? I still don't think Fernando's staying. I know that the rumours of him going have kind of petered out. I still don't see him going to... I still don't see him staying. I don't see it. Why would he stay? He has no reason to stay at McLaren. They're not going to get any better. They still have mostly the same management they had at the start of the season, which has caused this catastrophe of 2018. And yes, they have brought in Gilles de Ferran as a sporting director and apparently James Key, even though Red Bull will attest to that. Those are good changes, but is it going to change quick enough for Fernando? No, it's not. The earliest McLaren will get seriously better is, I think, 2021. If those engine rule changes happen, which I don't think will. So, yeah, I don't see any point staying. I don't see any point staying. So I think next year it will still be Lando Norris. And there's been rumours about Sainz. And if Sainz does get dropped from Renault, then yeah, I'd say Sainz and Norris at McLaren, which would be a good partnership. But if Sainz stays at Renault, then maybe Ocon and Norris at McLaren. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see what happens. Toro Rosso is actually decent, but they need to replace Hartley. I think he's been good this weekend, so I would give him until the end of the season still to prove himself, because I think he has improved over the course of the season. At least they had good pace and scored points indeed. Alonso will go to IndyCar. I agree. I think he'll be going to IndyCar next year, and most importantly for him, try and win the Indy 500. But yeah, we'll see how he does in that if he is going to Indy next year. Let's move on from McLaren and go on to Renault, who I have to say, yes, they scored points, but today could have been, and really should have been, so much better. Carlos Sainz in P9. Considering he started P5, I know he was never going to keep it, but I'm sorry, that's not good enough. I think Carlos should have been P7, P8 for me. I just don't think P9 really cuts it in today's Grand Prix, because I think the Renault wasn't massively fast today, but I get the feeling that if the Renault had not been in dirty air, he would have been a bit quicker. So I think, yeah, Renault should have been better today, no doubt about it. Nico Hülkenberg down in P12. I think he made a pit stop during the virtual safety car whilst they were clearing Van Dorn's car away. I'm not 100% sure of that, but he did drop down the order quite alarmingly, so I'm going to assume he had a pit stop. But not good race for Renault, and I think they're seriously at threat from Haas, who outscored them today. The next two tracks, Spa and Monza, Haas will not only beat them, they will thrash them. They will absolutely destroy them in terms of pace. If Haas don't bottle it in those two races, I don't see how Renault will be able to fight back against them. I just don't see it. So, not looking good for Renault. I'm really disappointed after this Grand Prix. Do you think Bottas crashes into Ricciardo was deliberate or just racing incident? It wasn't deliberate. He put his car on the inside and he tried his best to hold off Ricciardo, but I think should have acted a bit more smartly and not really defended it, because he was going to lose the position anyway. And because he had a damaged front wing, he just slid into Ricciardo, and it was always going to happen. It was inevitable. So I think he should have seen that coming. If this was a good race for McLaren, that just shows how far they sunk. I know, but at this point, you have to say that this is a good race for McLaren, because their car is, I would say, 7th or 8th fastest on the grid, which of course is not good enough. Williams probably will drop before 2020. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Renault again chose harder tyres. Yeah, I don't think that was a good idea, really. I think that really affected Carlos on the start, because I think he dropped behind Verstappen, Gasly and Magnussen at the start, so that just did not work out for him. And I think if they started on the ultra softs, I think Carlos would have ended up probably finishing in P7, because I think the Renault was right there with the Haas, but he just didn't get to show it, I'm afraid. Renault are bad on their tyre wear. They're not great, I will agree with that. They do get them fired up pretty quickly, but after that, it does tend to go away from them. Will McLaren be good in Singapore? They'll be better than they will in Monza and Spa, but not to the point you'll actually notice, because the McLaren car all round is poor. But yeah, we'll see once we get to Singapore. Someone's just put about Lawrence Stroll buying Force India, and you know what? We'll just move straight on to them. Force India, very difficult weekend, of course. They went into administration on Friday in London, and since then I think that's really affected them. They qualified in 18th and 19th and finished the race in 13th and 14th, and I don't think there's anything they could have done as a team this weekend to score points, because one, the car is slow, and I think the morale on the team is so low. It is so low right now because, yes, even though there are buyers out there that are trying to get a deal done, there's no guarantee that the team's going to survive. And there's no guarantee that someone is going to buy the team. So I just think the morale on the team right now is very, very low. And I do feel sorry for Force India, I do. And one thing to update you guys on about the situation is that, according to Sergio Perez, Force India told Perez to enact the winding up petition, or winding up order as it's known in legal terms, to avoid someone else putting them into administration. So it's almost self-inflicted to try and get a new buyer. But if they don't, then it's going to be kind of a waste of time. But yeah, Force India, will this be their last race in F1? Maybe not, but this could be their last season if they don't find a buyer in time. It definitely could. Not good for Force India. Hopefully in Spa, where they normally go well, they will be back in the points. That's if they show up at Spa in a month's time. Let's see what some of you guys are saying about Force India. Lawrence Stroll might buy Force India, in which case Williams will lose both him and Martini. And this is the catch-22 with for F1. If you let Lawrence Stroll buy Force India, you're still putting a team out of business, because Williams will go out of business without Stroll's money. They will, because they're going to lose Martini, which I think is, what, $10 million a year or £10 million a year to Williams, and then Lawrence Stroll's money is worth so much. So yeah, it's really going to affect Williams, and we'll get onto them in a moment. And that's the issue right now, is if you let, again, Lawrence Stroll buy Force India, you're putting another team massively at risk. Just reading here, Bottas got a 10-second time penalty. Okay. That's a bit harsh. It wasn't that bad. I'd say if you're going to give him a time penalty, 5 seconds. I think 10 seconds is a bit harsh from the stewards. I think McLaren even slower than Williams. Look at the German quali. Alonso was only 0.1 faster than Sorokin, and we know how good Alonso is. In Hockenheim, yeah, they maybe were slower than Williams, but here they were faster. So, yeah, Hockenheim doesn't really have any meaning anymore. I'm sad for Force India. The debt, the moral, everything's against them. Their pace is sadly non-existent either most races. The pace has been better in Austria and not Silverstone, Hockenheim. The pace was better there, and they did score points, which helped them a lot, but a lot slower this year than I thought they would be. I thought they would be 5th or 6th, kind of where Haas is, but they just don't seem to have the pace, and they don't have the cash to develop right now. So it's just a sad situation all round for Force India. And we'll now move on to Williams, who Lance Stroll had to start from the pit lane. Sergei Sorokin started last, so effectively Williams were at the back, and they finished at the back. Nothing really to say about Williams. The only thing really to say, actually, is if Lawrence Stroll leaves Williams with his money, then I think Williams are doomed think Williams will go out of business very soon, especially with Martini leaving at the end of the season for sure as well. So not looking good. Not looking good for Williams. We'll move on from them. Toro Rosso, very good drive from Pierre Gasly. P6, definitely at least one of the drivers of the day. Well done to him. His pace all weekend has been good. In the rain, he was great. In the race, he was also great. And comfortably finished in P6. Magnussen just could not really get anywhere near him. So, great race there from Pierre Gasly. Brendan Hartley in P11. I do feel a bit sorry for him because I really wanted him to get points, but he just couldn't do it. He just didn't have enough pace when it mattered, I'm afraid, to get the points. Wasn't too far off, but again, did not have the pace when it mattered to get the points. But good race for Toro Rosso, and they pull away from Sauber in the Constructors and now have a 10-point lead over Sauber in 8th place. So good there for Toro Rosso. I still don't think they'll finish 8th in the Constructors. I still think Sauber will get it, but there's no reason Toro Rosso can't. See what some of you guys are thinking. Hartley sucks. Replace him. Compared to his teammate, he's not great, but I think we should give him to the end of the season to see if he can salvage something, because I think the last 2 races he's been good. Alonso was saved by Ocon, who held back Sainz. Yep. Hartley has done a good job last 2 races, absolutely. If Bottas doesn't go with Mercedes in 2020, will Verstappen? No, I don't think that'll happen. I think if Bottas didn't earn a contract for 2020, it would either be Ocon. Well, actually, if Ocon goes to Renault, that won't happen because Ocon will effectively have signed a new contract with Renault and the Mercedes one won't really mean anything. So, I don't know, George Russell, Daniel Ricciardo, who knows? But I think Bottas, if he continues like this, will have done enough for a contract for 2020 and 2021 and so on and so forth. Pierre Gasly, what a driver he has proven to be thus far. One of the biggest talents in my opinion. I think he's good, but I think there's a lot of improvement still there for him. I think he's inconsistent. I think when he's good, he is very good, but when he's not good, there's nothing really to say about much to say about him. Yeah. If he improves his consistency, then I think he'll be up there with Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Ocon, all those drivers. All those drivers just needs to improve the consistency. Hartley doesn't suck. He's a world endurance champion. Clearly he doesn't suck. Yep, absolutely. Is Verstappen more likely to go to Mercedes or Ferrari? If he does, it'll be Ferrari, I think. Because I think he has more of just a connection in general to Ferrari. And I think Ferrari have tried to court him in the past. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Verstappen in Red Bull till 2020. Well, we need to see what happens in 2019, don't we? If the Honda is not doing well, then, yeah, Verstappen will probably leave. But if it is doing well enough, I don't see him going anywhere. Spain was one of the worst races I've seen this season. Okay. We'll move on from Toro Rosso and go onto the Haas F1 team, who, in terms of scoring points, did well. Kevin Magnussen in P7, that's 6 points for him. And then Grosjean in P10, that is a point for him. So 7 points for Haas compared to, say, Renault, who scored 2 points. So they do gain on Renault. I think the gap, if I'm not wrong, is... I'm trying to think. I think it's like maybe 17, 18 points between Renault and Haas now. And that is definitely catchable between now and Monza, never mind Abu Dhabi. So Haas are looking good. Haas are looking good. And I think they'll be very confident going into Spa once we get the summer break done with. And I think their car is, again, performing very well right now. And I think as well, their car this weekend was better than I expected it to be. I thought their car would be kind of like it was at Monaco, but it wasn't. And they got the points, and they fully deserved to get that. But yeah, not much to say about Haas. They didn't really have an eventful Grand Prix. Spain, worst race of the season. I definitely wouldn't say Spain was the worst race. I think the worst race of the season was Canada by quite a margin, I think, because we were expecting such a great race. Speaking about Haas, do you think Grosjean will stay with them next year? I think he will. I think he's doing, in what Haas's eyes is enough to keep a seat. I think he's definitely improved in the last few races. And yeah, I think they'll be loyal and stick with him. I don't see the Haas driver lineup changing. I don't. And I know some people have said Charles Leclerc or Sergio Perez. Again, I don't see the Haas lineup changing. I think if Leclerc goes anywhere, it'll be to Ferrari. And if he stays at Sauber, then I don't think that's bad for Charles Leclerc, because Sauber is quick right now. They are doing well. And I think if Lawrence Stroll buys Force India, I think they'll keep Perez Force India, and it'll be Perez and Stroll with Ocon going to Renault. So yeah, lots of change going to happen in the driver lineup. Do you think McLaren are hitting themselves on the head because they let Magnussen go? They should have never let him go at all. I was one of the people that thought that Magnussen should have been kept instead of Jenson Button at the end of 2014. Because I thought Magnussen, even though he wasn't as good as Jenson that year, it was only his first season and he gave Button a run for his money, no doubt about it. And Magnussen, by the way, has scored McLaren's last podium. Don't forget that. But thankfully, I think for K-Mag, he's in a car that's better. And I think he's in a team that is going in a direction which is a lot better than McLaren for sure. K-Mag, good again today, was one of the only ones to actually defend from Ricciardo. I think that's basically because he is a feisty driver. What will happen to Sainz if Ocon goes to Renault? I think Sainz will go to McLaren, from what I'm hearing. Sainz will go to McLaren. I don't know if Fernando Alonso will be his teammate. I don't think he will, but a lot of, again, driver changes are coming for sure. Will Ferrari come back from all these mistakes? Is it too late? It's not too late. There's still plenty of time to reverse this, but I just do not trust Ferrari and Vettel as a partnership to get the job done. I don't. I do not trust them one bit. I trust Mercedes and Hamilton because they have proven since 2014 they can get the job done. Dominant car or not. Look at last season. I just don't trust Ferrari. I don't trust them at all. Is McLaren underachieving by a massively long way? Yes, they are. I literally cannot wait to see how the 2019 Aero runs. I'm so tired of most races having large periods of absolute boredom in them. F1 needs a fix. Overtake, please. That's from Eric. Yeah, I can't wait for the 2019 regs, but I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to make that much of a difference. I think people are going to be disappointed as to what's going to happen with them. Nico Rosberg should have stayed at Mercedes. He would have won another title. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe he would have. Anyway, let's move on from Haas and go on to our final team of this race reaction. Sauber. Very poor today. Charles Leclerc retiring at the end of the first lap with, I believe, a broken front right suspension or broken front right arm on his car. So not good there. And then Marcus Ericsson in P16 just didn't have any pace at all. And I think that just shows that the Sauber car around this track is so poor. No real good aero on the car to make that car go quick. So yeah, kind of like Williams, there's not much to say here. Sauber just dead slow. But I think at Spa and Monza, Definitely watch out for Charles Leclerc and the Sauber, because I think they are going to be very, very fast in those two races. But I think it was expected, this kind of result. Don't we think, guys? Just trying to see what people are saying in the chat. What do you guys think about Sauber's race as we come to the end or near the end of this race reaction? Just looking back at my TV, Lewis Hamilton continuing his celebrations. Yeah, not a good track for Sauber. Again, it never really has been. I can't remember Sauber really doing well, even in the BMW days. I can't remember Sauber really doing well at this track. This has never really been a good track for them. So, yeah. Not a surprise, really, at all. Sauber needs to improve. Aerodynamically, they do, but I think short term, it's just a bad track for them, considering the amount of aero they have on the car. I don't think they can do any better than that. Sauber not going good today. They need improvement. Yeah, Ericsson disappointing, but then again, they have little aero, so massive disadvantage. Sad for Leclerc. You've summed it up brilliantly. And I think we will call it a day for this stream. But before you go, guys, one, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Either bottom right of the screen, on my channel name, click there, or click on the link in the description that goes to my channel page to subscribe for the content coming during the summer break. I'm now going to get into what is coming. So, well, first off, tomorrow there will be a race review for the Hungarian Grand Prix at 4 PM UK time, and then 3 hours later at 7 PM UK time, I will be doing a live stream again where it's just going to be a 30-minute Q&A where you guys can ask me about F1, YouTube, you know, whatever. 30 minutes answering your questions, and hopefully some of you can come along for that. And then I won't be uploading Tuesday or Wednesday, but then Thursday, the summer break content will start. On Thursday is when, kind of a mini-series, I'll be doing a mid-season review for all the teams. And I'll be doing 2 teams in one video per, video. So first will be Mercedes and Ferrari, and then I'll do the rest. Also, this time next week, actually on Saturday, I will be doing the Fantasy League results for the Chazza HDF1 Fantasy League. If you want to join that, then go onto the website, sign in or sign up, create your team and save your team, and then enter in the code 29A13E, and you can join our league. And then, yeah, I'm going to be doing mid-season reviews for all the teams, and then once I've done that, I will be doing an F1 2019 driver lineup prediction video about smack bang in the middle of the summer break. I'll be doing a video rounding up the news during the summer break. Hopefully some driver changes and something going on with Force India, I assume, will be covered in that video. And then I will do a video about who I think will win the championship with the last few races remaining. And of course, once we get to Spa, I will be doing a Belgian Grand Prix preview for that race weekend. But the thing I want to kind of announce is that the podcast, the Chazza HDF1 podcast, is coming very soon. It will be coming out Sunday, the 19th of August. That is a full week before the race for Spa. So that's when it will be coming out. I will have a guest on. That guest, yeah, he doesn't know it yet. I'm going to ask him, but he is currently in the chat now. I'm going to try and ask him if he wants to come on, and maybe, who knows, see how he does in his first podcast, be a regular from then on in. But yeah, the podcast will be starting, and I'm aiming for the podcast as well to be a weekly thing. So, for example, after a Grand Prix, the podcast will come out, say, on the Tuesday after, so 2 days after. That is what I'm aiming for. And I will also be going to a special event during the summer break, which hopefully I will be taking video of and sharing with you guys at least before the Thursday for Spa. So hopefully I can share that with you guys. But again, thank you guys for coming along and reacting to the race with me. It has been a pleasure. And thank you to all the people that watched the race watch along and watched the race with me. Such a pleasure. Very, very exciting at times it was. And again, thank you. And thank you as well for the increased subs this weekend. Also, just great to see that as well. If you want to join the Chaz HDF1 Discord community, go into the description and click on the link there for the server. If it has expired, then comment on this video telling me that it's expired, and then I'll post you a new link so you can join if that issue does arise. Follow me on Twitter. A link to that is in the description to keep up to date as to when I'm uploading videos. Again, subscribe, click on the bottom right of the screen, or go onto my channel name, or go into the description and click on my channel link page. Like this video, comment down below. And in terms of these, race weekend streams, I will see all of you guys for practice 1 and practice 2 for the Belgian Grand Prix in a month's time. But for the next video and live stream, I will see all of you tomorrow.